Hello, good morning everyone. Today we are going to review some of the tools that we have available on NinjaTrader to test our trading setups. Let's say that we are trading a very easy setup like this one, where we use a fast moving average and a slow moving average. This is included on NinjaTrader. This is the sample MA crossover. It only has two input parameters, the slow and the fast periods for the moving average. If we want to optimize the settings to use them on the following trading week, first I will remove the strategy. As we know, if we have a chart trader enabled on the chart, it is not possible to add a strategy. We cannot use both things at the same time on Ninja 7. On Ninja 8 this is possible. If we disable chart trader, then we can add a strategy. For example, the sample MA crossover with these parameters that I just found on a report. The strategy is disabled, so we get this D letter at the top. We can enable the strategy from the control center strategy tab on this check mark, or also from the input parameters of the strategy. Inside the input parameters we have the enable true false, so we can enable from this way. From both places can be enabled or disabled. We can also get the performance of what we have on the chart with strategy performance on historical, and on this report we can change it to currency. We have several topics to pay attention to, like for example the total gross profit, total gross loss, the result, the net profit, and we have all the results split by long trades and short trades. The commission is not calculated on this report, so we must multiply the number of trades by the cost of each transaction. So 281 multiplied by maybe something between $5 or $6, that must be subtracted to the total net profit. The percent profitable means that only 46% of those 281 trades are profitable. So we have 130 winning trades and 151 losing trades. The average trade is positive, only $30, and the average of winning trade is 343, and the average losing trade 238. The ratio between the winning trades and the losing trades is 1.44. All these values, like the maximum consecutive winners and maximum consecutive losers, are useful for our daily trading, because when we are outside of of those values, means that the statistic is not following the previous results. Another important factor is the maximum drawdown, which on this case is very high. If we look at the equity curve, the maximum drawdown is the distance between, is the maximum drawdown, like for example from this top to this bottom. Another important factor is the, even being positive, we must also pay attention to the profit factor, which is the ratio between the gross profit and gross loss. If the profit factor is positive, then we have a winning setup, but we should look for something bigger than 1.4, and when it is below 1, then we have a losing setup. The maximum adverse excursion is also very important, even on this example where we are not using target and stop, because it shows on the maximum adverse excursion we can see how is the for those positive trades, which is the maximum loss in average that the trade may be, and even so finishing on the target, on the positive side. So our target should be greater than this number. On the other side, the maximum favorable excursion are those trades that finished in a loss, but even so they were on the positive side. So the average for those trades is 338. That means that we have in average losing trades that were winning $300. On this setup, which is very simple, we only look at the crossover of two lines and enter the market each time there is a crossover. On this example, it is closing at the day session close, but we can change the exit on close input parameter. We can set this to false. And now we have the correct setup. We are always in the market, always closing and reversing the position when we have a crossover. There is no target and no stops. This is not the best combination. It is usually better to have a target and stop, but this is a good example to test the performance reports on NinjaTrader with this very simple trade setup. As we can see, changing this setting, we improved the total net profit and also the profit factor. As I told before, usually it will be best to have a profit factor bigger than 1.4. The equity curve is also something that we should pay attention, because this is not something, this equity curve is not something that we would like. We look for a slope, an average slope to the upside, of course, but not so noisy as this one. So let's start using this easy setup with strategy analyzer to find how to optimize the settings. We open the report from the control center, file, new, strategy analyzer. I place the control center on the bottom so we can see the estimated time to complete the report at the lower part of the control center. We choose the instrument, the crude oil future for July. Click on the backtest, select the strategy, sample moving average crossover, and we set the two input parameters with the settings that we have on the chart, and also the same time frame, 15 minutes. testing from start of year and with the default 24/7 session template, which includes Sundays. And that's all that we can set on the input parameters of the strategy. We can also select that the positions are not closed at end of session. And now we get the report, which is same as the report that we got on the chart, but the difference is that the chart was referred to the number of days loaded on the chart that we set on data series. In this example were 180 days. Instead of on the report, we select the starting date and ending date. The first that we can see on the results are the profit factor, the percent profitable, the equity curve. This may be the maximum drawdown. We can change this to currency. The maximum drawdown is almost 5,000. We can also look several other features on the performance, like the entry time profile. So we may find a pattern showing which are the best times to trade a setup. This is the entry time in hour. We can also look at half hour and also day of week. It took some trades on Sunday because the session template is 24/7. If we want to optimize the settings, we can use the optimize button. And now on the input parameters, we get 3 values for each. We have the starting point for the fast moving average. For example, starting from 4 to 150 in steps of 1. And for the slow, starting point of 5, ending point of 200 in steps of 1. All the other is the same, and we select the type of optimizer. Let's try with default first, and what we optimize. On this example, I am going to optimize the maximum net profit. If we try this configuration, we can see at the bottom an estimated time to complete, which is higher than 10 minutes. We can cancel this report and we get the partial results, what it found at this time. And this method, the default, tries all the combinations from 4 to 150 multiplied from 5 to 200. So it is going to test 4 with 5, 4 with 6, and so on. Then 5 with 5, 5 with 6. So we have 146 multiplied by 195 possibilities. So there are a lot of backtests to try. The other method, which is much faster, is the genetic optimizer. With the default settings, It is a very quick report, as we can see, but it also takes just a few samples, maybe too little number of samples, so we may not be getting the best option. Also, because the sample is random, if we execute the report several times, we get different results each time we execute the report. Anyway, we can execute the report several times until we find something that works for us. We can increase the resolution with the number of generations. So now it takes just a little more. Even so, executing the report several times, we get different results. This may be a better option than using the standard method, because we can execute the report until we find something that works. Number of generations between 15 to 20 may be enough for most of the uses. We can find good numbers like this, for example. If we look at the distribution, we can find the better time to use. But the question is if this is useful to trade in the future. The settings that we found, we are looking two numbers here, the fast and the slow periods, and this is on the settings tab, where we can see highlighted those parameters to be optimized and the result, in this case 37 and 40. If we use these settings 37 and 40 in the future, we don't have any guarantee that it is going to work. We may have an idea that maybe it is going to have these drawdowns and the equity curve maybe continues having this performance. But the best way will be to optimize and then test those settings into the future, because this is an optimization for the best settings that already happened in the past. But what if we use these settings into the next interval of time? So we can split all this interval in small pieces and optimize and backtest with the future data. This is a wall forward. We can click on the wall forward button, and then we select how much days we want to optimize and how much days into the future we want to test those settings. The optimization period is in multiple of 7, so we have weeks. So let's start with 2 weeks, 14 days. And those settings, I will use them in the following 7 days, 1 week. So we optimize 2 weeks into the past and trade 1 week into the future. If we execute this walk forward, it will take a little more time because it is executing several optimizations. Each optimization is of 2 weeks and then a backtest of 7 days. As we see, we are using the number of generations on 15, so we must take into account that each optimization has the result that we saw before. So each optimization has a random data and also a random result. at the end of the report, we get a final number which is really not good. As we can see, it is negative. We have another tab for the wall forward where we have each row is a week from January 15 to January 21, 22 to 28, 29 to 4, and the result for each week. If we look at the daily report, we can see that each report is 1 week long. 5 or 6 days if there are trades on Sunday. This was the best week, but in average, assuming all the weeks, the result was bad. The parameters used for each optimization, like for example from January 15 to January 21, can be seen on the settings tab. And those parameters were optimized using the previous 2 weeks. We can see all these results on the optimizer tab, and as we can see, all the results are positive on the optimization. But then when used on the following week, the results are not so good. Now we can try using a bigger optimization period, for example 4 weeks. So we optimize 4 weeks into the past and trade those settings 1 week into the future, and so on for each week. This report is going to take a little more time, so we pause now the report is finished, and these are the results for each wall forward. The net result is still negative. So even having good performance on the optimizations, using those settings into the future is not looking like a good idea. All the optimizations have very good results. Even so, on the test for the following week, the results are mediocre or even bad. So now we have an idea of how useful are the optimizations or the reports to use them in our daily trading. We can keep changing settings, like for example the time frame, until we find some correlation between the optimization reports and the backtest reports. Now, using a 5-minute time frame, we get a total performance which is positive. So now we are approaching to something useful. The profit factor is lower than what we would like, and we need to subtract the commission for these 500 trades. On $5 per trade, this is something like 3,000. So even so, we have a positive result. If we look at the wall forward, the results per week, this is a positive week, another positive week, this was a negative week. This report, the wall forward, don't show the equity curve in total. We need to zoom each week one by one. But we get the numbers for the report. The total number of trades, and also we get the parameters on each wall forward. If we want to continue with this process for our daily trading, then we need to use the last settings found, optimize the last 28 days, and use those settings on the following 7 days. But we can also use some limits to avoid having big losses on the whole week. So we can use the statistical data that shows the report to limit our daily trades on that week. Let's say that we use these settings 20, 16 and 48. For example, we can look at the number of consecutive losing trades. Usually a normal strategy has a much lower number here, usually something like 3 or 4, and the drawdown is also much lower on a good strategy. But these are the numbers that we can use on our daily, on our week trades. So all the 7 days following this report, we should look at the drawdown and also on the consecutive trades in row. So if we are having a bigger drawdown or a bigger number of losing trades in row, then this current week is going out from the statistical. So we should stop trading for that day or that week. Usually when one of those settings are out of the report or out of the statistical, we stop trading for the day. And we can also add limits for the week, like for example having more than 2 days losing in row, we can also stop trading for the week. When those limits are reached, we should keep trading in sim, because we need the statistical results at the end of the week to take a decision if continue the next week with the new limits or optimizing again. If we look at the report, we usually find weeks where the results are very bad, because maybe that week something happened, all the days were bad on that week. So if we have 2 losing days in row, maybe 3 days in row, 3 bad days in row, we should stop trading for that week, because usually on the good weeks there are no 2 losing days in row. So that could be a good alert signal where we can limit the losses for non-standard weeks. Even so, these are statistical results. Nothing guarantees that following this procedure and the next week everything will work fine. These are just tools that we need to learn how to use them, just to give us an edge on our trading. Hope this video has been useful for you, and if you have any question, please post below. Thank you everyone, bye bye.